Hey guys, welcome to the show. We're going to get things rolling in just a minute. I have Michael Gross with me this evening, and we went through some big items that happened this week. We touched on why we aren't a fan of the, quote, entertainment-y style of some of the matches that are presented today. And I know that some of you may say, oh, this is all about complaining. And let me just say up front, this is not a podcast that is about complaining, okay? This is a podcast that we love to voice our opinions about a passionate thing in our lives of how wrestling could be better. And this is what we do. And we don't pull any punches. This is not an apology. It is what it is, and we love it. So I want to preface it by saying that, as well as there may be a few four-letter words in this show. This is not an X-rated show, but a couple of four-letter words did slip through. So I've been trying to edit it out. It's given me issues, but in case you have, me on in the car with kids, I don't know anybody that's going anywhere, but if you have me on a speaker, make sure that, obviously the kids are maybe not listening, because just FYI, I know that some of you do have families and you listen to the show. I want to make sure that I give you the heads up that there are a few four-letter words that are sprinkled throughout the show. It's not heavy on it, and there's only a few that just, for whatever reason, is not letting me edit it out. But I figured as a courtesy, I'd let you guys know that it may not be family-friendly right now. So, but anyway, Michael Gross and I discuss everything that's really bothering us in WWE, as well as we do give some praise on things that are really good right now, and things that we are excited about seeing, and what we're expecting from maybe the first live show that WWE does in front of an audience. So get ready, guys. This is a long conversation, about 2 hours with Michael, as we dive into the product and dive into things we love and things that we hate, because that's what we do as fans. So, alrighty, guys, let's get rolling right now.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, Smackdown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hey guys, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Saturday, April 18th, 2020. As we roll on in our quarantine lives, thank you for joining me. As tonight we're looking forward to a, really long show. Michael Gross and myself dissect a lot of what's going on in WWE. Some things we love, some things we hate, some things Michael really hates. But it's all out of love of wrestling, and I know that sometimes we get some feedback on this show that you guys complain too much. Well, here's the thing. I don't just go along with what I'm fed, okay? And neither do any of my co-hosts. We don't go along with just the happy little fan that is happy to eat anything WWE feeds us, even if it's total horse manure. We'll just eat it blindly. No. Because we know how good wrestling can be. We've experienced it. That's why we're fans. And when we see things that just irritate us or things that we don't like, we point it out. Yes, because we know that if you eliminated it or changed it, it could be better. And that's what we want as fans. We want a better product because we love this genre so damn much. So I just want people to know that when we critique and it comes off as complaining, it's really out of love. Okay, I'm pulling a Randy Orton and saying, I just love it so much that I have to beat the hell out of it. Right? So I'm pulling a Randy Orton, but it's true. So I just want to say that up front. But thank you guys for joining me, as this is going to be a long show. I hope you enjoy it with Michael and myself, because we took a lot of time here to discuss what's going on, and there's a lot going on. And we did get on our tangents, as it happens in wrestling conversations, and we talked about the possible first live show back and what they could do or should do. We talked about the Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose segment, Seth attacking Drew McIntyre, Howard Finkel We touch on that at the beginning of the show, as well as talking about the mass amount of releases in the WWE world that happened this past week. So a lot there. Ruby Riott and Asuka. We talked about Money in the Bank at Titan Towers and what that could look like. And so really there's a lot to be covered here. And I hope you guys will take the time to maybe digest this in an hour, 2 hours in full, in 15-minute increments, whatever is best for you. But thank you guys for joining me. You can follow me on Twitter at the WWE Podcast. You can also head on over to the website at WWEpodcast.com for all of your podcasts. And if you click on the Support the Show tab, I know many of you are ordering off Amazon, as I am. There's a banner in that tab. If you click it, it directs you to Amazon. You do your shopping as normal. It just kicks back a little bit to the show. You can also get an ad-free experience if you're tired of the ads. Easy way to solve that. Head on over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast, and you'll be able to get an ad-free experience from start to finish for every show in the library ad-free. So one last way to support the show is to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us in the rankings and everything else, and that is a great way too if you just want to help that way. A great help. So, okay, let's we'll get into the Michael Gross thing in a minute. One last thing I want to talk about is mention the band. And if you guys haven't heard about this band, it's called Halocene, Halocene, and maybe you already have, and that's great. But this is a really good band, and the reason I'm mentioning it is because they just redid the John Cena theme song. And let me just be frank with you guys, it's badass. It's awesome. Again, Halocene, it's a female-fronted alt-rock group. They're from Phoenix, Arizona. They have over 260,000 subscribers on YouTube. They have just finished up this John Cena remake of their song and put their own spin on it. And it's featuring the YouTube sensation Nem Raps from Nerd Out. They have over 3 million subscribers. So here's a quick sample of that remake of John Cena's song. And so again, if you want to subscribe and hear more, they're also on SoundCloud under Halocene, and obviously on YouTube under Halocene, Halocene. So just take a listen, and then we'll be right back.
Stack fat, plus I can't turn this well off. The franchise doing big business, I live this. It's automatic. I win this, so you hear those horns, you finished. A soldier, and I stay under you fighting. Plus I'm storming on you chumps like I'm thunder and lightning. Ain't no way you breaking me, kid. I'm harder than nails. Plus I keep it on lock like I'm part of the jail. I'm starter and stale. Competition, I got the whole block wishing they could run with my division, but they going fishing with no bait. Kid your boy, hold wait. I got my soul straight. I brush your mouth like Colgate. In any weather, I'm never better. Your boy's so hot, you'll never catch me in the next man's sweater. If they hate, let them hate. I drop your whole clan. Lay your ass down for a 3-second tan. My time is now. You can't take my time is now. It's the franchise, but I'm shining now. You can't take my time is now. It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
So you got a little bit of a sample there. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but you get the sense of it. And it is, I don't know, I love that spin on John Cena's song. It's catchy, it's edgy, but it's true to the wrestling theme song of John Cena. If you watch the video, it's taking place in a ring. So again, authentic to what this song represents. I would really recommend you guys check them out. And again, it's Halocene, and they just released this the other day. So check that out. Alrighty, guys, let's get to the conversation with Michael as we cover everything in WWE that best we could. Certainly, there are a ton of stuff. There's a ton of stuff you guys didn't talk about this or that. The fact is, we don't have time to create a 12-hour podcast. We do a lot of deep dives on the show, not by design, just because that's where the conversation often goes, is deep diving into either the current topic, current product, or into a side conversation that just goes down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to apologize for it. It's just how, if you guys know, you're talking with wrestling, other wrestling fans, you just go down rabbit holes. It's just the way it happens. So again, we did our best to cover some of the things going on today, but a lot of it is, the wrestlers that got released, Howard Finkel, Money in the Bank, and we did obviously touch on some of the big items that came of this week with Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman and so forth. So one last thing I want to do is give the mic, so to speak, to a listener and get his question in and comment, and then I'll answer it, and we'll get right into the Michael conversation. That's 2+ hours, so let's take a listen, and I'll respond.
Hey Matt, this is Brad from Pennsylvania. I was just listening to your quick hits, and it's obvious you hated the Firefly Funhouse. I took about a good 10 to 20 years off of watching wrestling, maybe checking in periodically, checking out when The Rock was there, stuff like that, because I was a big Hulk Hogan NWO fan, and I grew up, I went into high school, and I kind of said, you know what, the hell with this fake fighting, I'm not going to watch it anymore. I watched UFC for years, so having kids now, I started to get back into wrestling. One of my good friends watches wrestling all the time. Well, make a long story short, I just got back into watching wrestling last year at WrestleMania. So I had a good almost 20 years off. I'm 35. I stopped watching around the end of the peak years of NWO. So needless to say, a lot of stuff in the Firefly Funhouse, I didn't know what was going on. I had to look it up on the internet to get all the who's and whats of what was going on in the Firefly Funhouse. So I particularly didn't care for it, mostly because I didn't know exactly what was going on. But that being said, if they did the Firefly Funhouse, and towards the end of the Firefly Funhouse match, they zoomed out, or maybe back into the ring, or somewhere, even in the Firefly Funhouse, and you realize John Cena was under a trance from Bray Wyatt, and this wasn't the actual match, and now with John Cena being half out of it, not knowing what was going on because he was just mentally played with, Bray Wyatt grabs him, Sister Abigail, Mandible Claw, they end the match that way, not as to Bray Wyatt has magical powers and can transport and do all this magical stuff that happened in that match, to make it almost as he was in Cena's head and took him out of the match that way, and now destroys him with 2 moves to end the match. Do you think that would have been a better way to do it, and maybe you would have liked it more if that's the way they did it?
Hey Brad, wow, yeah, awesome observation. As far as would I have liked it more if it was just a trance? The short answer, yes. I would have liked it much more had it just been discovered that, you pan out and John Cena's sitting there with his eyes rolled back and he's in some kind of trance from Bray Wyatt. Yes. And you could say, oh, well, he has magical powers to put people in a trance. I could buy that more than if he's entering another dimension and not self-aware that he's not able to control his own body, and it's really Bray Wyatt, and he can also teleport, and John Cena is playing along in this fantasy environment that makes no sense. Yes, the answer is a solid hell yes. That is certainly something I would have been much easier to digest and understand, is if he got inside the head of Cena, he was able to see inside himself what the flaws were in himself, in his own mind, but it wasn't actually a physical realm. It was in his head that Bray Wyatt was able to connect to and to control, rather than his actual physical body of doing all these silly things. And then yes, he's able to win the match with John Cena being incapacitated. Yes, as Daniel Bryan would say. I'm pulling a lot of wrestling puns out, but great observation, Brad. Thank you for the question, and the answer resoundingly is yes. Had that actually been the case, I would have been able to accept it a lot more than it had been presented as. So thank you so much for the question. Okay, let's get to the conversation with Michael. I'm not going to wait any longer. I'll be back on Tuesday with your Raw review, and then normal schedule next week with everything you guys expect. Quick hits, AEW, NXT, week in review, back at you next weekend. So thank you guys so much for listening. As always, talk to you next time. Welcome to your week in review with Michael Gross as he joins me this week to talk about not just this week in review with the storylines, but also all of the other side stories that have been going on that have really captured the headlines of WWE and the news, and that being two things. One, the mass amount of releases that WWE has followed through with and has shocked the world and has caused a lot of anger, confusion among the stars and fans and everything else. So we'll talk about that as well as talk about the passing of the Fink. But before I do, I would like to welcome Michael back to the show. It's always great to have you here. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, sir. As always, I'm humbled to be on the show, and I love being here. Thank you for all the listeners who really appreciate me and follow me after this. But let's get down to it, man.
Yeah, let's do this. I mean, we got a lot of content to get through on top of the actual current product that's going on and the storylines. And I have actually a lot of good things to say about SmackDown. I actually enjoyed SmackDown more than I think most did. And I don't know if my standards are starting to drop with empty arenas, but I enjoyed it a lot. But first and foremost, I want to ask you about Howard Finkel. He passed away at 69 years old. I don't know the cause of death. It seems to be private, and obviously I'm going to respect that. People are speculating, oh, what if it's the COVID virus? I don't know. He certainly is in the age category where he would be severely affected. I don't know the specifics, but the fact is that the Fink is gone, and I want to hear your thoughts, Michael. I mean, was the Fink somebody that was a voice of your childhood, like Corey Graves referenced, or what was the Fink to you, and were you surprised by this news?
Yeah, absolutely. The Fink, oh God. When I was a kid, just listening to him announce things, it was important because that was usually the end of the show or the main event, things that they don't have today. It was very, very important. If the Fink came out and said, this is that, and this is Hulk Hogan versus, it could be the Iron Sheik, or it could have been Andre the Giant. It could have been anybody. But when he came out, it was that special moment that you knew it was that you had to sit in front of the television, no matter if you had to go to the bathroom or not. It was more important than anything. And that's why his legacy, I think, will be, I don't know how to put it in words really, but it's cemented as far as you hear that one voice and you know it's on. It's that moment. WCW tried to emulate it with Bruce Buffer. Stupid. Really stupid. Just let the Fink be the Fink, and the Fink was just the voice of a generation.
That's a good way to put it. He was the voice of so many big moments, and I enjoyed the video package that they created for him. Very well done. The WWE put together a lot of moments that you forgot about over the years with the Fink, like when he did it. He was an honorary member of DX doing the chop. That was really, really fun. He's just, that made me pop. And just his voice is stapled on so many big moments. And it is kind of a cliche to say he's the voice of my childhood, but in so many ways he is, just as much as Jim Ross was a voice of my childhood during the Attitude Era. The Fink has so many big things attached to his voice, and like you said, when you hear his voice, you know that it's a big match. He could make anything sound bigger, and his voice was made for that. He was a gifted man with that voice. And I loved when you heard him. He was a joy to listen to because just the way he would announce the match or announce a winner would make you more excited than you would normally be, say, if it was Tony Chimmel or and no offense to Tony. I mean, it's just the fact that
it's not the same.
No,
it's not the same.
He's got like that deep perfect ring announcer voice. And so I was surprised by the news. Again, I don't know the cause, but I was surprised to see it at 69. That's not exactly old today. I mean, 69 is still considered relatively young, so that was, I'm sure, hard on his family, and I don't know if this was expected or unexpected. We don't know, but it was certainly shocking. And I was listening to I think it was Jim Cornette on one of his podcasts recently, and whether you love Jim Cornette or not, the fact is that he pointed out that he never heard a single bad thing about the Fink. He was always in a good mood. He would get there before most employees would get there. He was the first WWE employee. He was just beloved by everyone he came in contact with. So this was hard one. This was a hard one, and hard for fans, even harder for the wrestlers, and obviously his family and friends.
I agree. It's what is really weird is especially employees from New Japan and AEW have actually tweeted giving their remorse and feeling about the Fink passing, and that just, it blows my mind that he surpassed just WWE audiences, and how many people he touched, even if he wasn't working with the same company or the same promotion, and it's beautiful to me.
That's how you know that somebody has star power, when you have other promotions that are not even, you could say they're the rival, but the fact is that he had crossover power, whether it's wrestling and any other sport. He just had that unmistakable voice and just a beloved feeling among everyone that he came in contact with. So yeah, this was a tough one, as we get older, and we see this older generation start to, unfortunately, drop off one by one, and it always hits you at a time you don't expect. And so he'll be missed. I'm sure I'll go back and listen to some of his famous calls, and it's a tough one. So any final thoughts on Howard Finkel before we get to the 20 plus releases by WWE?
I just want to say rest in peace, and I wish the best for his family.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can second that. All right, let's get to that. I mean, we got the news earlier this week about WWE releasing several superstars. And as we continue to refresh the news feed, it seems as if names were being added every time we hit refresh, and that rumors of names were being added. And ultimately, I mean, as it stands now, I'm trying to get a final count. Do you have a final count, number-wise, on how many superstars, wrestlers, and or employees that WWE has released?
Last I counted, close to about 67, 68 people. And that's between wrestlers, backstage, everything else. But obviously I'm not like an insider or anything like that, but it's really insane, because you had the Revival one day, and then the next day 19, and then 30, and it just kept growing. How about you? Do you know any numbers?
That's what I was trying to find. I mean, it fluctuates. I've seen anywhere as low as 20 up to 50. I mean, I haven't come up with a totality number, but I think without even looking at the numbers, you look at the names, and you're shocked by some of these. And to me, at least for me, and this is obviously a very subjective opinion, but for me, the most shocking was Rusev, simply because of the fact that he was just involved in a major story, of which he lost every match he faced Bobby Lashley in, but he was the focal point, main event of Raw for many, many weeks. And while he lost all of those matches he had with Lashley, going from a main event of Raw, coming back from a return after being gone for so long, and then just being cut, was, to me, the most shocking. I mean, if you were going to pick one person or team that was the most shocking to you when you look at that and go, no way, was there that one single name or names on there?
Yeah, Kurt Angle. Just for his backstage presence, and if he was going to be a producer and everything else. Now, a lot of people will argue with me as far as, in-ring performers and things like that. The fact is, Kurt Angle was brought back for a reason, and he did a lot of things. He is smart. He was the smartest person to catch on to professional wrestling. And I feel like they really, I mean, if they cut Kurt Angle, they are really tying up this budgetary thing. But, now Rusev, to me, like I said, I was never a huge fan of him because he got the stupid, I'm a big foreign guy and I'm really strong kind of thing. And then I lose to John Cena and now I'm a mid-card guy. But there have been so many NXT or Florida Championship wrestlers who said Rusev is amazingly talented. You just have to take the governing off of him. You have to let that go. So I want to see what he does because that really piques my interest.
That's, to me, and as far as you say, let him go, take the chains off. It's going to be interesting to see if he has a John Moxley type of podcast somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to go full on Moxley somewhere on some podcast and go rogue and start complaining about the product. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. I think he'll probably just go quietly into the night until he finds that next promotion. And, when these releases happen, everyone's thinking, oh, AEW, everyone needs to go to AEW. And I'm thinking, no, everybody doesn't need to go to AEW, nor does AEW need them, nor does AEW want everybody. AEW right now is a hot commodity. They can pick and choose who they want to work with because of their highly talented roster. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to take somebody that WWE fired. I mean, look at half their roster, right? But I don't think they want to be known as the company that picks up the scraps of WWE, and they're not. I think they're going to be known for what they want to be known for is obviously being their own company, but being able to really be able to take a talent that WWE could not use in a way that they wanted and make them into something that WWE couldn't. And I think Rusev could be that guy to come to AEW and really show what he can do. I know that, again, you could say this about several different people, but to me, Rusev is the most shocking and is also, I think, one of the better candidates to go to AEW. He's got a lot of name value and brand power. So, and to your point about Kurt Angle, I was shocked about that, but I really wasn't shocked about that in terms of this. Kurt Angle certainly his in-ring career ended a long time ago. I mean, he was a shell of his former self towards the end, and we all wanted to see him versus John Cena at Mania. The company knew that. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. And he goes from being this on-air authority figure for the Raw general manager to losing to Baron Corbin at WrestleMania and then going off into nowhere after being inducted to the Hall of Fame a year and a half earlier. So, you have that for Kurt Angle. His in-ring career is over. He goes back into the backstage area. That, to me, I guess you could say it's somewhat shocking that they took Kurt Angle out of that environment for all the knowledge that he has and all the things he could share with talent. He certainly has that. He's got more mileage on his body than most have in a lifetime. So I'm shocked from that perspective, but maybe there's something that we don't know. Maybe Kurt Angle is going through maybe through things that we don't know. God forbid, back into a drug addiction or whatever. But it was shocking from that perspective. From a name value perspective, Kurt Angle's certainly the biggest name. But I was just shocked from how just contrastly different they went from Rusev to main eventing Raw 2-3 months ago to gone. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Do you have any other thoughts on the rest of the people that got cut, whether it's on-screen talent or the producers that got let go? Anybody? And you can take these as you want.
Well, look, I'm going to put it really as easy to digest as possible. But okay, you had Drake Maverick, which was Rockstar Spud. Why was this guy even given a paycheck to begin with? And I'm not talking about WWE. I'm talking about Impact. Like, this guy doesn't bring anything to a ring. Sure, he's better on the mic than a lot of people, but what do you actually get out of it? Nothing. I haven't seen anything between the two programs or two different companies that makes me say, I got to see, the Drake Maverick thing. So I get the firing of him, but I never want anybody to be fired. I'm going to say that first and foremost. Looking down the list, okay, Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins. Okay, so who's going to job now? And that's like my biggest thing. I'm afraid that you've got talents like Ricochet and Cedric Alexander and Apollo Crews who are going to job over and over again for people I don't believe should be getting over at this point. Sheamus should not be getting more and more pushes. He should be done. He should be putting over these younger talents. I don't think I've ever seen a match where I said, wow, Sheamus is just so amazing. Never. But with that's personal opinion. I digress. The fact that Eric Young should have been kept. You can use him in different capacities. The sanity thing, they just fumbled the ball on that and just let it go. But why is Riddick Moss or Jinder Mahal still employed? These are questions that I just want to put to people. EC3, how do you miss the boat on that guy twice? That's just me.
EC3 shocked me as far as not him being released because they weren't even using him. I think the last time they used him, and I could be wrong, is before Moxley, then Dean Ambrose, was on his way out, and EC3 got a couple of victories over him, and that was it. Maybe there was a match or two after that I'm not aware of, but that's the only notable thing he's ever done since debuting in WWE. And EC3, I don't know how you missed that one. Maybe, again, they may know stuff that we don't. I was just, when I saw this, and WWE pinned this on a lot of these, if not all of these, on the coronavirus pandemic, and that the obviously with a very little revenue compared to normal coming into WWE, with no ticket sales, no merch sales at the venue, WrestleMania loss of income, all that they're attributing to the coronavirus, and very well, may be losing income. It's not even very well made. They are down on their revenue over the last couple of months, no doubt about it. But the fact is that you look at some of these names, and is it really because of the coronavirus? Or are they using that as a facade to get rid of talent that they would kind of wanted to get rid of anyway, instead of just going down and go, oh, guys, we weren't going to make any cuts, but this coronavirus is really putting us in a bad situation financially, even though they have $1 billion Fox deal. Hey, we got to make cuts. We wouldn't be doing this otherwise. I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. I think that there is an extension of guys and gals that they may not have otherwise cut, but you can't blame all of these cuts on the coronavirus in and of itself solely, because I really believe that I don't know who out of these. I could probably dissect it if I was going to do a deep dive and look at those names and say, yeah, these people probably would have been cut anyway, and it's a perfect out for WWE to say, oh, look at the pandemic, look what it's doing to us financially. I don't know, maybe I'm being cynical, but do you think that's possible?
No, honestly, I really don't, because let's look at hard figures, okay? The WWE network charges $9.99 a month. That's 1.2 million subscribers. So they're making, almost $10 million a month, and you cannot pay these people. And especially with having empty arenas and no overhead. And, you talk about, well, if you book Madison Square Garden, something like that, but you're not. You're doing it now from the Performance Center. You've lowered your overhead. You have lowered your overhead, and I see this is more maybe personal. I really do. You're making $10 million a month. I can't see, and you have no travel costs, and everything is in house. Come on.
And they furloughed a lot of their employees too, through July 1st. So, I don't. Being furloughed is certainly a better option to being fired. It's a step above being fired. It's kind of like, well, we don't want to pay you to be here. You might have a job come July 1st. Well, depending on what the situation is and with the virus and if we're reopening or whatnot. But yeah, could it be personal? I'm sure some of these are personal. But I think a lot of it is just, as they would say, trimming the fat. And I understand any company has to do this at some point. It's a cyclical thing that is, I don't care what industry you're in, private, public. Although if you're public, then you're unionized and you're protected. But more obviously in the private industry, this is a cyclical thing. And so if you have guys and gals that you feel you've done everything you can to try to make them work, and they just don't seem to get it, or it's not a good fit, and you future endeavor them, then I get it. But man, you look at some of these names, and I mean, obviously EC3, it's a head scratcher, right? Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, that was another one that shocked me, given the fact they were just in the Boneyard match with AJ Styles. And yes, they've been kind of goons to AJ Styles, and I don't think they ever truly made Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson what they could have. I think, and I said this on my show earlier this week, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, their best night was their first night in WWE, because when they came in, I remember they were in like street clothes, they looked legit badass, they had a presence, and you're like, whoa, even if you didn't follow New Japan, you were like, whoa, who are these guys? Obviously Luke Gallows was Festus, but we pretend that didn't happen. And so you have these two guys. I really believe their first night was their best night, because after that, I mean, they won the tag team titles a couple of times, but the Good Brothers and the terrible doctor skits that they went through, the long periods of time where they're just missing. I mean, so they completely mishandled them after night one. But did you think that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson would be on the chopping block, though? I didn't.
No, nowhere near. I honestly thought that they would be the furthest. I figured that if you're going to cut all these people, that because of Vince, he would like to make them the new jobber tag team like Hawkins and Ryder. I hate to say that because they're so much more talented than those two, but the fact is, I feel like Vince's mind. It's not my creation, so I'm gonna step on it. Eric Young was really one of the people that piqued my mind because they did nothing with him. And, you had the whole sanity thing in NXT, then you bring up to the main roster, then you dissolved it, and then you did nothing. And it's like, you have a guy who's talented, and you've developed a different kind of character from who he was. And it just fell flat. And that bugs me. And the other two NXT rookies also, people who weren't even given a chance, were cut. And I'm like, why? These could be your great people for tomorrow, and instead you're just gotta go. But we're gonna hang on to the Miz. He might do another reality show.
The Miz, yeah. The Miz, I'm starting to sour a little bit on the Miz, and I don't know if it's just, I don't know what it is about the Miz, and I'm not trying to make this about it, but it's funny that you bring that up. And I don't mean sour in a way that's good heel heat, that I wish someone would just beat him up. It's more of just like, this guy, again, still here? And yeah, they dropped the belts last night on Smackdown and all that to just go back to the New Day that, Lord knows, they don't need the belts. And we'll get to that. Yeah, later.
A million times over, yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, we'll get to that more in detail, but the NXT cuts too. You had Deonna Purrazzo, you had Jenkins, you had Williams, Josiah. I'm not good with NXT names. Josiah Williams, MJ Jenkins, Alexander Jacek. I mean, so Jacek. I can't Jacek. It's a tough one to pronounce. So yeah, the NXT cuts were surprising, and I know that NXT even needs to feel the sting of the coronavirus if we're going to go along that road. That's what's causing these cuts. But even Mike Chioda, a referee, got cut. I mean, yes. So what? You have Mike Chioda get cut, a longtime employee, a longtime talent. I loved Mike Chioda. I know that WWE's rules are don't mention the names of the referees. They were actually told that at one point, as if they're just some kind of invisible inanimate object in the middle of the ring that counts the 3 count. But I loved Mike Chioda because he was a very in-your-face referee. He didn't back down. He was a smart guy in the ring. He knew how to be where he was supposed to be at when he was supposed to be there. And so Mike Chioda was a shocker too. I know many people are overlooking that as a referee, but that was shocking. That really was.
I think that for him, it was, you've been here 20 years plus, so we're going to let you go because it makes sense. And I hate to say it, but it does kind of make sense in that retrospective look. But man, I who didn't listen to Sting and the Police as a wrestling fan sing Chioda, Chioda? I don't know. It's my own thing. But anyway, did you get it?
Yes, I did.
But, looking at some of the people on the list, I get it. And like I said, there's so many people that they missed the boat on. They just didn't even try with. And why do you not try? And then you have all these talents in NXT and NXT UK. So you have a roster that was 200 people. Now it's down to 150. And you only have storylines for 12? Come on, man. The people who should have been cut are the writers.
Amen. I mean, the thing is, and it's not so much the writers' fault in WWE for them being hired. If there's a job out there and you want to be a script writer, you want to be a part of World Wrestling Entertainment to write creative for their on-air talent, then if you're interested in that, great. It's not their fault that they hire so many people. That's WWE management for hiring so many damn creative. And I think the problem is that the creative team is writing for Vince McMahon instead of what the best thing is for the fans. They're always writing to make sure that Vince will like it. And what Vince likes isn't necessarily what the fans want to see or what they want. So the problem is that they're writing to keep their jobs rather than maybe doing what they feel is a better story. And they certainly have way too many cooks in the kitchen with all the writing teams. There does come a saturation point and a point of inversion where more isn't better in the room. It's just too many people there. But nonetheless, I mean, honestly, I think some of these cuts do make sense from the perspective of they didn't seem to fit well. They didn't seem to find who they were. And when I think of that, I think of Sarah Logan because, I mentioned her in my show earlier this week that she was one of the cuts that I kind of agreed with from the perspective of she never felt comfortable in who she was. I don't know who she was. I don't think she knew who she was. She just was this, I guess, born and raised with wolves in a forest type of girl that did an occasional scream.
It's tough buy. It was a tough buy.
Yeah, it was very tough, and I just never felt it with her. I don't think she's ever cut a promo that I can remember, or maybe more than a couple words. Her most prominent position was with the Riot Squad that got disbanded and destroyed on a weekly basis by Ronda Rousey leading up to WrestleMania last year. I just never felt Sarah Logan. I think the best thing for her, and again, this is me speaking as a fan, it seems as if she needs to go and find who she is and what she is. She will find work. She's from WWE, the biggest promotion in wrestling. You're going to be able to find work somewhere. It may not be AEW. You can go to Japan. You can go to Ring of Honor. There are places to go. So I think she will fit in somewhere, find herself, maybe come back. Just because these people were cut doesn't mean that they're not coming back ever. I mean, there is not a person on this earth that Vince McMahon has had a terrible past with and not brought back because of the fact that they feel it's best for the fans, even if they put personal feelings aside. Vince has always shown time and again, when you think somebody's not going to ever come back, i.e. Bret Hart, right? They will eventually come back. Hulk Hogan came back. Everybody seems to eventually come back. So even Bruno Sammartino, who was very vocal against Vince McMahon for years and years, came back. So just because they're cut now, again, we need to remember, doesn't mean it's a forever. It's not a banishment from WWE. But Sarah Logan, I kind of agree with, because it just didn't work for me.
Well, how many minutes can you put together for Sarah Logan's whole career for her being in the ring?
I'm counting on home. 1, 2. I'm on one hand here. It's in ring. Well, I did look, and there was a stat that I came up with, and I'll bring it up as we're talking here. It was. Hang on. Well, you can keep talking, and I'll pull up what I want to pull up.
What I was going to say about it is, you look at some of these people like Lana. She and we both, I think, agree that the fact that she should never be around a wrestling ring, as far as inside. Outside, fine. Be an arm charm, whatever. She's still employed. Good for her. I think she's a great, beautiful woman, but however, she brings nothing to Bobby Lashley at this point. And I feel like she's probably going to get furloughed or, pushed to the side. But the fact is, there are so many people that maybe stepped in a ring that shouldn't have. And so Sarah Logan, I can't name 3 matches she was in. Maybe something with the Riot Squad, and like you said, just to get your ass kicked by Ronda Rousey, and that was a forgettable reign. So everything's forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, she was in the Elimination Chamber inexplicably there, right?
God, thank you. All right, sorry. Sometimes I go off on my own tangents, but I think that I don't think that they missed the boat with her, but I feel like you could have tried. You could have tried. Like Ruby Riott, I feel, will be the next, and that's the saddest because I see so much potential in her. I see so much. She is so much healthier, so much. Just her work is more crisp. In my opinion, okay, her work is more crisp. Her selling is better, and they just keep jobbing her out, and they're jobbing her out to people who are basically mid-card women, and I hate it. And you could have held on to Sarah Logan, I think, but I'm afraid for Ruby Riott.
Yeah, I mean, Ruby Riott, the good thing is with Ruby Riott, she had a really good showing this past week on Raw against Asuka. Maybe one of her best matches ever in WWE. And maybe that's a compliment to Asuka, who was just that good in the ring to make her opponent look that good. But this past week on Raw with Asuka was one of her best matches to date. So maybe that's a telling sign that she didn't get squashed by Asuka. She put up a good fight. There were some believable near falls. That is encouraging if you're a Ruby Riott fan, that it wasn't a squash and she was able to put up a fight against Asuka, who is obviously several levels above her. And, again, with Ruby Riott, she has a look, she has a presence. I'm not too scared for her because I think that she was always the standout of that group, i.e. the Riot Squad with Ruby Riott at the helm.
Yeah.
But Sarah Logan, I'm looking at her stats now. This is what I wanted to pull up. In WWE, she has had, and again, I believe this is just television matches. This doesn't count house shows. She's had 17 wins and 52 losses. That's a 24% win rate and 2 draws. So she has lost 73% of the time. And I think most of those wins probably came at the beginning of her career in WWE, where they were trying to get her over. That's what you do when you're new. And I'm sure a lot of those were in the Riot Squad at some point when she was coming up and debuting. So those are the stats.
No, I get it, man. So let me switch gears with you real quick. So what do you think about the debut of Killer Kross in NXT?
I like it. Which she actually follows me on Twitter, which is kind of weird, but cool. So I'm going to kind of take a wait and see approach with Killer Kross. I'll be honest, I didn't follow any of his work before he got to NXT. So I have a very limited range and sample size of his work. So honestly, I'm taking a wait and see approach. What did you think? What do you think so far?
It was really reminiscent of his TNA Impact, whatever you want to call it, debut. I hear that they're going to change his name to Karrion Kross, and if that's true, it disgusts me because earlier reports were the fact that his name was supposed to be carried with him, taken with him, and you know, it has more weight that way. And so if you change it, it's stupid. And but aside from that, it was a good, quick little thing. Now, as far as his background, I've been following him for about 2 or 3 years, and he is amazing. I'm surprised that Vince didn't put him on the main roster right away.
Well, I think that NXT is probably a good home for him then. I think that somebody like him should probably live in NXT for a little while. If it is indeed true that they're changing his name, I agree that it's just such a corporate move, and I understand why they're doing it, because, you can't have someone called Killer. I mean, it's such a corporate PG move, and protecting themselves from any backlash from sponsors or these soft fans that just don't understand why somebody's called Killer and can't handle that. I mean, I guarantee that is the reason why they would change his name. So I'm willing to give him a chance. And again, you follow him way more than I did, so you know and have seen much more. From what I've seen, I like, but I'm taking a wait and see. And I like that, he's involved in a program that can suit his needs. And I think that he is going to be a bigger deal than what he is right now, obviously. And many people thought that those lights on SmackDown were him. And once he came to NXT and those lights continued on SmackDown, obviously we know that was not him now. So, I mean, I'm excited for him. And certainly I think NXT is a great home for him based on his style and based on, him just kind of understanding what the WWE product is before they bring him, quote, to the main roster. And I hate saying that, but, so did you have any other thoughts on any of the other releases? I know there's quite a few names. We've got so many other names. You've got Heath Slater. You've got Mike and Maria Kanellis, Aiden English. I mean,
okay, Mike Kanellis, formerly known as Mike Bennett, is an amazing wrestler, and I'm really upset that they missed the boat on him. They put him right on the main roster right away, not knowing anything about him, with her and a stupid storyline. But the fact is, the guy is a great wrestler, and he's had matches with Kurt Angle, that you just look at and you're like, why was this guy a jobber in WWE? So that one definitely sticks out to me. That one, yeah.
I'm just glad that storyline with Maria Kanellis is over. You know what? The fact is that they didn't even have an end game for that story, where Maria was 24/7 champion, and she was apparently maybe hooking up with somebody else, and it's not your baby, and we didn't even know where that was going. There was no payoff. But Mike Kanellis, certainly, I loved his in-ring style. I think he's got a good look. I think he's a great heel. And I remember he had a match on, I think it was near Valentine's Day of 2017 or so, when he came back to WWE with Maria Kanellis, and he had a match with Sami Zayn, who was interrupting their, lovey-dovey session backstage, and he really showcased himself very well against Sami Zayn before Sami Zayn became what he is today. So yeah, I mean, I was shocked by that. Maria Kanellis, she just had a baby, so I mean, that's not a huge loss. She wasn't exactly doing a whole lot, but I do love her promos. Aiden English being released, I mean, he's best known for his Rusev Alliance or association, announcing Rusev Day, and that's probably his biggest claim to fame at this point. But a guy that's in great shape, he can play a good heel, and I don't know if there's room for him in AEW.
Let's not forget the fact that he is married to Eddie Guerrero's daughter.
That's very true. Yep. So I don't know. Some of these, it's going to be very interesting to follow all of these releases, like Primo and Epico, and obviously Drake Maverick, who I'm sure you saw on Twitter, a tearful explanation or a tearful response to his firing. That was hard to watch.
It's sad, but like honestly, and I do not mean this in the weirdest way, but why was he hired to begin with? We have to look at that for certain situations, and like I look at some of the really talented people, like Cassius Ohno. He was Chris Hero in the Indies, and he was one of the most explosive people ever. He has a problem with his pituitary, so he put on a lot of weight, and he's never going to make it to the main roster, which his spot was supposed to be Roman Reigns' spot, but, that is what it is. So,
yep. Well, we don't mention Roman Reigns on this show because Vince doesn't want us to mention him, so.
But, it's things like that. Like, we look at, I guess so much, there is so much talent out there, and he has so much talent, and he released so many people, and I look at it and I'm like, who's going to job now? Are we going to go back to, squash matches? Is that our future? What do you think?
I think, well, squash matches have been kind of making a comeback as of late. I mean, Sheamus has been doing squash matches now for weeks. And, you had, I think Nia Jax was doing a squash match upon her return. Braun Strowman did it upon his build to the top for many, many weeks, asking Mick Foley when he was Raw General Manager, I want real competition. I mean, so squash matches have been definitely more of a thing, the enhancement talent. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to either bring up new talent or bring in local talent to be those enhancement talents for the stars they're trying to build. So, yeah, they need enhancement. Enhancement talent are, I think they're underutilized or they're underappreciated because somebody has to take the fall to build somebody else. So, and some of these guys and gals, let's be honest, were enhancement talent. No way, Jose. I mean, the good thing about it, I never have to see a conga line again in my life. I mean, so No Way Jose being released, did they miss the boat on him too? No. Maybe. I think that it's possible. Given what he was in NXT to here, it's just such a Vince McMahon vision for some people, and No Way Jose was certainly a victim of that.
Now, they missed the boat on Adam Rose. They screwed themselves by trying to do it again with No Way Jose.
That's exactly, I mean, everybody looked at No Way Jose. He was kind of an Adam Rose part 2, version 2, where instead of the Rosebuds, they were a conga line. So, yeah, No Way Jose became just kind of a running joke, and I don't know. I wasn't a fan. But, I mean, the other producers that got fired, obviously Kurt Angle was a producer, Lance Storm, Mike Rotunda, who was IRS, Sarah Stock, Fit Finley, Shane Helms, Hurricane, Pat Buck, Sean Daivari, Scott Armstrong, and Lance Storm. So,
it's an interesting group. First of all, I know Lance Storm shut down his school just to come back to WWE. So I think that was a really bad move on their part for him. Or it's more personal to me for that feeling. It's a lot of people who also had TNA or Impact ties, if you look at it. And if you notice that, the only person who's off that list that I thought would be furloughed would have been Joseph Park. And the Monster Abyss isn't. And that's kind of confusing to me, or more Vince McMahon to me, like, well, he's a huge guy, we can't lay him off. I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
I think you hit it on the head. Vince has a fascination with those kinds of those bodies. So I definitely think that's the case. And, I think one other thing that we haven't looked at, and I haven't heard of many other people look at this angle of this whole mass release black day for WWE, are not just the people that got fired and the families and friends that it affected, and obviously those individuals who may or may not find work now, but what about the people, the performers, the producers, the employees that are still there? Like, how does this affect them? The people that have made the cut, how does this affect them? Are they now even more fearful for their job? So, how does this affect their psyche? I'm sure morale is low backstage because of how many friends that these individuals have made over the years. I'm sure that we have no idea about that, who's friends with who. So, again, you have to think about the effect this has on the roster that's still there. Are they, what does this do for their psyche, the morale, and the fear running around for them? So I think that's another element we need to look at.
Well, it's definitely a different element to think about because, everybody you trust now does not trust you because you were saved and they were saved too. So you have all these people looking at each other like, who's the mole kind of thing. And there is no mole. It's just the fact that somebody is going to get fired or laid off or whatever it's going to be. And it's sad. And I'm afraid for the backstabbing. I think this is going to be worse at this point than the whole Shawn Michaels DX, pre-DX, like the Click. I think it's going to be worse than that. I think there's going to be a point where it's going to boil down to nobody is going to trust anybody. And we as the fans are going to get a bad product.
Yeah, the trust thing is it's huge, and I'm sure that many of these people that got fired felt secure in their jobs, even if they weren't being used weekly on TV, or if they were being used, they were being used in kind of a minimal role to enhance somebody else. But they probably felt as if they were secure. Many, I'm sure some probably may have saw the writing on the wall, but certainly based on the reactions that not all, and probably the majority didn't see this coming. And that certainly shakes the people that are still there to their core and does create a mistrust between individuals, I think not just between the talent for who's a mole, but really management and talent. I think that leaves a sour taste in everyone's mouth to see management get rid of this number of people and all at once and kind of unceremoniously do it. I mean, the way that Drake Maverick was talking, it wasn't as if he had got a video chat or say, hey, you want to come see us? I mean, it was just a quick phone call by Mike Carano, who is the VP of Talent Relations. So he apparently made these calls individually to everybody. I know that with the certain situation now, traveling may be an issue, maybe that's why. But the way they did it, and the now volatile and fearful and mistrusting environment that they've caused after doing this, they've got a lot of repairing to do behind the scenes, and I don't know if it can be solved by a quick, let's get everyone together and discuss what happened and try to, basically rebuild that trust,
Hard, because I have no idea what they're going to do behind the scenes. You and I both don't know, but the fact is, you got a show to put on, and I don't see any storylines progressing. Besides, you're pushing Braun Strowman, who does not need that championship, against Bray, who does not need that championship, and it's a waste of time. It's a waste of air, in my opinion. I hope there's a quick get it over, whatever. I hate the Elimination Chamber. I hate the Money in the Bank. I hate all those gimmick matches that give you a shot for a championship, because it undermines the lower titles like the Intercontinental and the US title and such. But with that being said, like, with empty arenas, with no build and with no stories, I'm afraid to see where we're going. And the stupid, oh God, these cinematic filmed main events. I wish they will go away forever.
Unfortunately, I don't think you're going to get your wish, because as long as this continues with the pandemic, it basically opens the floodgates for the production team, for Vince, for all the producers to finally do what they've always wanted to do, and that's not be a pro wrestling company. That's be a movie studio. Basically, they are running, again, I've said this how many times, that they don't like their identity. They are insulted, and they take offense if you call them a pro wrestling company. But that's what they are. Whether they like it or not, they can mask it with anything that they want. And any chance they get to try to change people's minds of what their true identity is, they run with it. And they run with it hard. I mean, look what they're doing with the XFL. Anytime Vince tries to do a side project, it seems to just bomb. And it's not necessarily, obviously, the XFL's fault, because I think this time it was much better done than back in, 2000 or whenever it first debuted.
Yeah.
This thing is snake bit. I mean, you have it finally start to catch a decent rating. People are somewhat starting to get into it. And the coronavirus comes along and basically bankrupts the thing, and there's no, it's shut down indefinitely. And there's no talk of a 2021 season or anything like that. So the XFL snake bit. The WWE Films, their side project of WWE Films, is basically dead. I mean, so anytime Vince tries to do something that's out of this wrestling stuff, that's what he likes to do. But my point is, I think with your Money in the Bank ladder match, that is going to be in Titan Tower, as we know. And you're going to get a very pre-taped, perfectly positioned, cameras in all angles that they shouldn't be type of match that we either you love it or hate it. Some people loved the Firefly Funhouse and loved the Boneyard match, aka Buried Alive, aka Graveyard match. So, you and I may be on the other spectrum, but there are certainly people listening going, "What are you talking about? That stuff's genius. It's awesome." And I know that we're in the minority, but it is what it is.
Well, I actually talked to another correspondent, Anthony DeMarco, that co-hosts with you, and we share the same aspects on it. I don't want so much hokey. I don't know how to describe it, but just bullshit. I don't want it. I don't want it, and I don't want that in my wrestling, and now I'm getting a lot more of it. I watched Impact this week. Can you believe that? Wow. And yeah, and they had a segment with Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan. Sami Callihan is actually, his character is great, but everything they did at the end of the show with him, and all of a sudden there was all these beings, and they were just buzzed in. It was bad. It was terrible. It was worse. It was Firefly Funhouse times 2. That bad. And so I'm thinking, God, where are we going now? I don't want this in my wrestling. I want just wrestling. I want wrestling, I want, when I was 11 years old and I would race home to turn on ESPN so I could catch 40 minutes of AWA wrestling or something like that, and now I'm getting goofy, outer space, beamed in, nobody cares about it, so stupid, any casual fan will just be pissed off about it broadcasting.
I can't dispute that. The thing is, I know that we are in the minority based on the polls I've seen. It seems like a 75-25 split for who, 75% in favor of that kind of cinematic delivery from WWE, that, especially from the Firefly Funhouse, people calling it the best thing they've ever seen, and a cinematic brilliance, and it was, oh my God, and you know what? I understand, again, I'm not getting into the Firefly Funhouse because it'll put me down a rabbit hole.
we'll both get.
I can't. Yeah, you've heard what I feel, and I'm not going to go down that road because it won't stop. But people love those types of cinematic presentations because it's a lot of visual stuff. There's a lot going on. It's not just sitting watching wrestling. There's just action every second, and it's very movie-esque. And a lot of people do like that presentation. But for people like you and I who watch wrestling shows to, watch wrestling, this is something that's a slap in the face to what wrestling is. And WWE, it's just an example of WWE running from their identity of what brought them to the dance, what makes them successful, and that's intriguing storylines, believable stories, believable delivery, promos that bring you in, characters that are deep, and personal issues. And unfortunately today it's the emphasis on athleticism, emphasis on sometimes hokey, over-the-top stuff that detracts from what brought you to wrestling to begin with, what makes you love wrestling, and that's damn believability. Believability is something that I can't underscore enough because that's what believability is tied to so many other things, meaning it's tied to emotional investment, which is tied to you being a regular viewer, which is tied to ratings increases, which is tied to you purchasing the network, which is tied to you also purchasing merchandise and telling other people about it. Believability, it all starts with believability, and when you take that out of it, it's a superficial cinematic presentation, and it's not my thing. But some people love it, and people are probably screaming at me right now.
No, that you said it really, really great because my problem is like WWE now wants to sign people like Cain Velasquez. We don't care. Ronda Rousey, we might have cared, but really, at the end, that was a bad run. And you want to have Mojo Rawley bringing in what's his name? Hold on, I got to burp.
Gronkowski, Rob Gronkowski.
Thank you. Yeah. We don't care. So we're wrestling fans, and we're supposed to digest and understand and love wrestling. But we're having so many outside people put in our faces that can't do anything, mostly in the ring. And we just keep getting fed like mediocrity with this over and over again, but we have stars. I don't care about stars. I'd rather watch AJ Styles wrestle Kevin Owens. That's a great match. That's something that I'll tell somebody, hey, come in the room, check this out. I don't care if Ron Gronkowski or like Ronda Rousey, I don't care if they're on my television. I don't. And that's where they've gotten, is to the point where they want that point that I don't care about that. Well, we have stars. I don't care. I want to see wrestling.
That's exactly what WWE likes to tell you is, well, look at the star power we're bringing in. Well, the star power you're bringing in doesn't translate, or almost never translates, into enhancing the product. And I know they're trying to get more eyeballs. Star power is very important, but in the right context. Star power is important when you have a performer, a wrestler that is, has earned their respect in front of the fans. The fans have seen this person grow up in front of them, and over a number of years, it takes years to do this, and come in and show you what they can do, find out who they are, and connect with the audience. And yes, it's important about the in-ring quality of a match, but it's, I think, even more important for promos, believability, and defining a character that the audience can relate with. This is not easy to do. I'm not saying this is a dime a dozen. This is very difficult to do, which is why we have not seen a John Cena since he left. We have not seen a Stone Cold since he left. And I'm not saying there should be another Stone Cold or another Rock, but I'm talking about stars to that level. We have not replaced those stars yet. You can't tell me Roman Reigns has. You can't tell me AJ Styles has even. I mean, there has never been another Rock, another Stone Cold of that level. And, that's when star power is important. Star power is how you build, it's how you build the NFL. It's how you build MMA. It's how you build any sport, because the stars are the ones that are needle movers that but not coming from other sports. They're homegrown. They're homegrown sports professionals that come in and master the sport. They're not outside forces that come in and, play in the sandbox for a good payday, which is what you see with Gronkowski. You've seen it with Snooki. I mean, you've seen it with how many people coming in, Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke, I was going to say. We've seen Mickey Rourke and Mick Jagger. No. But you've seen it how many times come in, and it's usually a big bomb. I mean, Floyd Money Mayweather, actually, with the Big Show, overachieved. That's an exception. That was a match that I was actually somewhat pleased with in the build up to and the execution, given what it could have been. So, I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
I could have done away with a lot of that. It's like the Big Show Hockey Bono thing, like all of that.
Oh God,
pageantry. I'm tired of it. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want any part of that in my life. And I feel like Gronkowski, I feel like Ronda Rousey, stuff like Cain Velasquez. It's more pageantry, and these people are gonna suck the time away from real people who dedicated their lives to being professional wrestlers. And I want for them to go away. Just put them in a box and go away. That's just me. But, I mean, like I said, I've been following wrestling a long time, as you have, and we all have different opinions. And, you love the Attitude Era. For me, before that, it was the NWA on Saturday night on WTBS before it was TBS, and watching, grit wrestling. And it was real grit. And that was the Attitude Era before there was an Attitude Era. So it was amazing. And then Turnabout it, and it all turned really wimpy. And then we had to watch really, really bad wrestling for a long time. But that's it.
All right. Well, I think we've made our case about the version of pro wrestling that we like, but yet here we are talking about today's product. And I have to ask, with all of these things that people, or that we've I guess torched the current product about things we don't like, what is something going on, and particularly this week, that maybe you did like? Something that happened on Raw or Smackdown last night that you said, hey, this is something I can get behind, or that I'm interested in. Whether, again, Raw or Smackdown, take your pick, but just trying to balance out some of the sourness with something maybe you did like.
Okay. I would say trying to build Braun towards Nakamura, because Nakamura is a really, really great character if the WWE will get behind him. I think that's one of the biggest things. Because I think that if they looked at Nakamura's New Japan matches versus Brock Lesnar and stuff like that, you'll see he is a badass, and they've demeaned his character so much. If they put some levity underneath and just build it, oh my God, it could be great. So how about you?
Yeah, that's a good point. Shinsuke, ever since he main evented WrestleMania with AJ Styles, he's been basically irrelevant. I know he turned heel, and he had some funny moments with the no speak English and that kind of thing, and he was obsessed with low blows for a while. I enjoyed the Ruby Asuka match. I thought that was well done, and again, I think for the perspective of Ruby's career, it could have saved it, because she performed very well in that match, even in a loss. Seth Rollins attacking Drew McIntyre was, I think that program could be very good. I'm just surprised they went to it right now. And maybe it's, Brock's gone till SummerSlam. He goes back into his hole in Montana or wherever he is. Who do you go to next for Drew? And Seth, I don't know who you go to next, so maybe Seth was not a program they wanted to go to right now, but they didn't have an option based on the rest of the roster. So I'm liking that as long as Seth gets his group back. I want Seth to get the AOP and Murphy back together. It seems as if Seth has kind of gone rogue from his group. And I know there's injuries with the AOP, and Murphy's just kind of lost in the sauce. And I know he has his own match coming up this week. But I liked it from the perspective of I'm really looking forward to this match. And I'm really looking forward to how does Drew overcome, hopefully, Seth and his disciples. So that was good. I also, believe it or not, and I know you may be shocked by this, I thought the execution of Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose was probably the best that this whole storyline has been, especially from Sonya Deville's perspective. It was easily her best promo she's ever cut. I mean, Sonya Deville was believable. She was logical. She was conniving. She was a total you-know-what, and I liked it. I thought that was very well done. Mandy didn't have a whole lot to say because I don't think she's as good on the mic as Sonya is, but she showed what she can really do. I don't even care if it was a rehearsed script. I'm sure 75 to 80% of it was, but it was very well done. So hats off to Sonya Deville for her best promo to date. I'm not usually into this kind of like side stuff, but in terms of if you're going to do drama and you're going to do it believably, make it simple, make it easy, and execute it well, and I think that they did here. So those are just a few things that I like from this week. I have some more stuff, but we'll start there.
No, it's all good. Okay, I have no problems with the promo because organic. It seemed more organic. It seemed more healthy, nurturing. I don't know. It didn't seem written. I hate that written when you can almost see them reading off something, like kind of cue card thing. I hate that. I liked it. So, as far as growing the characters, beautiful. Now, as far as, hold on, I just kicked something over and picking up. As far as Seth Rollins goes, I don't know what to do with that character. I love the fact that he's in the main event. He is a great performer, but goddamn, man, we got to do something more to make him have more flair, because at this point, he seems like he just boils out at some points. Like, first of all, don't call yourself the Monday Night Messiah. Just call yourself the Messiah. It's cleaner. Just be you. Like, I want more Tyler Black. While they're emulating the Marty Scurll character, which is really what they're doing, minus the mask, I think that, they could do so much more with him. And going forward with Drew McIntyre, I don't see this. I really don't like it. Honestly, I could see this being Kevin Owens' thing.
It could be. Kevin Owens, I mean, we haven't heard from him since he left or defeated Seth Rollins, and he cut a promo, obviously. I think he was in like a parking lot or something, and he cut a promo about what he's going to do next or what he should do. And so we don't know where he's going, but I hope Kevin Owens returns on Monday and we're able to see his next steps of what his, what he's going to do. And, the one thing that I had, and you and I seem to be on opposite sides of the Drew and Seth deal, and that's fine. I'm glad we disagree on it. It's I think we need to disagree on things once in a while, but with Seth Rollins getting a championship match, I've said this how many times, right? You have Kevin Owens come off a huge win at WrestleMania, beating Seth Rollins, and yet Rollins now is being rewarded for not only attacking a champion getting an opportunity, but also above the guy that actually beat him at WrestleMania. So this is where wins and losses, I know everyone, wins and losses don't matter in wrestling. Well, then why are you fighting? Well, why the hell are you even fighting if wins and losses don't matter? So this is what really irks me about booking, and this has been a sin of booking forever, is the only way to earn an opportunity is all you have to do. You don't have to go through a grueling tournament. You don't have to go through a gauntlet match. You don't have to scratch and claw for years and years and years. And All you have to do is just attack a champion, and you get your opportunity. That has been the booking for WWE logic more often than not for as long as I can remember, is just attack a champion and you get your opportunity. So while Seth lost at WrestleMania, he's now getting rewarded with an opportunity at the Universal Championship, or the WWE Championship, and Kevin Owens goes into oblivion, and he's nowhere to be found. I get you can't have, usually you don't want babyface versus babyface, but this is the kind of stuff that I love the matchup personally with Drew and with Seth, but I just don't like how they get there. Always getting there by attacking the champion and rewarding that person who attacked the champion from behind with an opportunity at their belt. So those are my thoughts.
No, I get you on all that. I really don't think at this point that the idea of any kind of really storyline is going to happen. Like, I think that they're just going to throw any kind of spaghetti against the wall and wish that it sticks, because they're hoping that WWE Entertainment, is going to be bigger than the wrestling product that they are not producing. And they have no audience. They have nobody. They have nothing. It's sad. It's really sad to me.
Yeah, the lack of an audience, certainly, I think, you could say that for almost any angle that's going on. Is I would love to hear what the actual audience would react to, how if they executed it the exact same way in front of 20,000 people. How would the crowd react? Would they boo? Would they cheer? Would they do nothing? So again, on a week-to-week basis, we are just being, again, we're getting new content, but it's hard when WWE doesn't get that reaction, and they're just able to do whatever they want without consequence, other than social media with fans reacting, of just being able to really do what they want. It's like the parents are gone, the kids can do what they want in the house and get away with it. And that's what WWE is doing, because they're able to just do whatever they want without consequence of the fans telling them they love it or hate it. And so they're able to just do what they want with no repercussion and really no feedback, which is really the most important, which is what they always tell us, that they have a live focus group every night. Well, you don't have that now.
Yeah, right. Right.
So
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you. So Braun Strowman being Universal Champion, being this big, huge beast, I see him like Andre the Giant. I don't want him to have the belt. And then he's going against Bray, which we both agree should not have the belt because he doesn't need it as if he's the Fiend. So how do you actually book Braun Strowman?
Honestly, I would have put him in the Intercontinental title picture with Sami Zayn. I think that is a storyline that had a lot more to it, more legs to it, with Sami at Elimination Chamber getting the best of Braun Strowman and him boastfully coming up the next night on SmackDown, or the next week on SmackDown, and saying, hey, Braun Strowman has never even been able to touch a hair on my head. And you knew that moment they were building towards Braun and Sami Zayn, and they never got there. I think that feeling of wanting to see Strowman against Sami Zayn one-on-one, maybe in a cage or somewhere he can't escape, that was building for me. I was looking forward to that. And so, again, I love Sami Zayn. I think he's doing a brilliant job right now. I know some people are like, oh, he's been defined down as just kind of a manager that takes bumps, and he's a good talker, but he's not really a in-ring performer that's going to be a legitimate contender anymore. Honestly, I'd rather have him in this role than where he was as just kind of that happy-go-lucky babyface that, gosh darn it, tries their best. They put on a good match, but ultimately they don't win anything. And right now, Sami Zayn is in the best position he's ever been in his career, regardless of where you think he's been defined down as now. So, Braun Strowman is, you said it, he's kind of an attraction. He's never going to put on that 5-star match. It's just not how he's built, and I'm not going to hold him to that standard either. But Bray Wyatt, you've said it, I've said it, and I think many people feel the same way. Bray doesn't need the belt. I actually think it detracts from Bray Wyatt at this point. You I would not have put the belt on Bray Wyatt for a year plus, maybe more, because I don't think there's that urgent need to have him carry the belt. So, because that's not what the Fiend stands for, right? We've said that. The Fiend stands for destruction, revenge, mind games. Just that's what he stands for, and vengeance, and just all that. And now he's going after the championship. It just, I don't know. To me, I would have put Braun Strowman in the IC title picture, leading and building and building and building to finally get his hands on Sami Zayn. That's what I would have done in the short term.
No, it's fair enough. It would have been a better story by far. But now with Braun in the Universal picture and Bray there, I don't know how to book it. I don't know how to think about it. I don't know how to wish the potential. But and it's funny because Bray has no lackeys now, with both other servants being gone, with Brody Lee and Eric Rowan. They're gone. So he has nobody to help him in any kind of situation. So if he beats Braun, it's going to have to be a clean defeat. So that could be a double turn, which I hate double turns. They only work if you're Bret Hart and Steve Austin. And I don't know. I just don't see anything as positive going forward for Braun Strowman's Universal title career.
Or if you're Becky Lynch and Charlotte at SummerSlam 2018 and you inadvertently do a double turn. I mean, it either happens by accident or it happens by miracle. There's no other way to do a double turn. And so, it's very rare. Braun Strowman he's a guy that, you want him on your show because he's what Vince McMahon's wet dream is. I mean, he is the big guy that is, the intimidating 6'6" guy that is 300 plus pounds and looks like a man, like a monster, and he talks like a monster. I don't like the voice that Braun Strowman talks in, because he's putting on a voice to talk like some kind of. It's cartoonish. It's blatantly fake. I hate using fake as being such a big wrestling fan like you and I are, but that's fake. I don't like when you play a voice, and that's what Braun Strowman does. He tries to talk like a monster, and come on. I think he did better this week though, with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross talking about just in his normal voice, not his big monster, big boy voice, and talking about what Bray's about, and he knows that he's about mind games, and he's not going to play those games. And then he gets a gift, and it's the black sheep mask. And so the good thing is about this, whether you like this program or not, the fact is they actually have a lot to draw from here based on where they were as the Wyatt family. So next week they talked about how there's going to be a look back at this story. So they're going to give us a story that makes sense. I appreciate that, because this isn't just a random program. There's a lot to build from here, from 5 years ago or so. So whether you love it or hate it, they do have a story. I just wish that the Universal Championship wasn't in the picture. I think that's maybe the whole problem, is that the title's in the picture. That is, to me, I would have loved just a personal feud and not the title on the line. But what's the alternative? Goldberg holding it until Roman Reigns gets back? I mean, so the other alternative was, hundreds and thousands of fans being pissed off that Goldberg is still champion. So I guess this is the lesser of two evils, but we were never even told how he earned this opportunity to replace Roman Reigns. Never.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's a lot to digest. As a casual fan, you're going to change the channel. As you and I, who are a hardcore fan, we're going to watch and we're going to say, how do we defend this? And that is our problem every week. How do we defend this BS? I'm going PG for the show. But, yeah, how do we defend it? It's silly. It's stupid. We look at, okay, a lot of my friends back in Memphis would always say that this was the hillbilly soap opera. That's what they would call it. And I get it, but then things got really good, and then it got really bad. And how do we defend it now? We don't. It's not our hillbilly soap opera anymore. It's just we don't know where we're going.
Yeah, I haven't heard that phrase of it yet, and maybe that's because I'm in the north. That's a hillbilly soap opera. I haven't heard that. I've heard a lot of other things. I mean, as wrestling fans, we just know that it comes with the territory of being a wrestling fan. That people are going to say, "Oh, you like that fake stuff? Why?" Right? And my mic drop answer is just, so you're telling me you don't watch TV shows or movies? 99% of those are, as you quote, call fake, right? And 99% of those don't even require 300 days of travel a year, nor do they equate to the same number of injuries per performer either. So, when people talk about fake wrestling, I just, I say, look, every TV show you watch is produced. Every movie you watch is produced. So it's just it's a tired, lazy analysis of what wrestling fans are. It's such I don't know. But, so getting to something else I actually did like, okay? There are other things I did like, and that's Zelina Vega on Monday night coming out and really taking a significant portion of the show for Zelina, probably her most camera time in a single show that she's had, and putting together this stable of Austin Theory, Andrade, and Angel Garza. And so she was on commentary, she was doing an interview backstage, she was ringside for several of the matches. Honestly, I love Zelina Vega. I've sung her praises on this show many, many, many times. She has got a great presence. She's a great promo. I love what she's doing here. And yes, you could say McIntyre, they were just being built so that they could get fed to McIntyre at the end of the show. But he's your champion, so I'll let that go. But if this group sticks together, and I hope they do, to me, this is a great scenario for Vega, for all involved, Theory especially, who just came onto the scene getting some notoriety in a prominent position, and obviously Angel Garza and Andrade, who are excellent workers. This has the potential to really take off and be something if they put the rocket ship behind it and make this stable important, make it feel threatening, do something with them, and not just get fed to the top guy every week. So I don't know. That was something I really liked this week, was the Vega segments.
No, I like the Vegas segments. One of the big things for me is the fact that Theory got pushed so hard so fast. And it also makes me worry about him because, it's like Ricochet. You get pushed and then all of a sudden you job to Riddick Moss. But I think that the whole situation's awesome. I love Zelina Vega at ring, on commentary, just doing whatever she does. I followed her as Trinidad, I think is her name, and she was a badass wrestler. She was, and she still is. And that's one of the people that it still blows my mind that you still have storylines with Lana, but you have a girl that's an amazing talent, an amazing female wrestler, and you don't let her wrestle. You just let her do a moonsault or something like that off the ring apron. Sad. But with that being said, I love the building in New State. I noticed the fact that everybody put their left hand in except for Austin Theory. I think it was left and right. So it wouldn't be like confused with the Shield, but I think that's going to be like a breakout thing. What do you think about that?
I didn't even catch that, but you're probably right. Yeah, it's definitely. And your concerns about Austin Theory getting pushed too hard, too fast. Time is going to tell. And when we get back in front of a live audience, all these things that WWE has been doing without consequence and without any feedback that instantly comes to them on a nightly basis, it's going to be very interesting to see how the live audience reacts to things going on. And maybe it's skewed for the first few times because people are just so excited to be there, they're not going to boo anything, and it's just great to finally be back. And who knows what that's going to look like. It could be just partially filled. It could be half filled with people wearing masks. I mean, it really could be something like that. We have no idea what that's going to look like or when. If I was to guess, it'd probably be sometime this summer when they maybe start to fill arenas at 25 or 50 or 75. I mean, who knows? But with fans back in there, with WWE having all this time to do all these things and not have any feedback, how does the product feel and look to fans once they get in front of a live audience? How do the fans react to that? I mean, also, we have no idea what the product's going to look like by then, because WWE would have probably gone for another couple pay-per-views, maybe different champions. So this is really playing with house money for WWE. I'm very interested to see. I think when WWE gets back in front of a live audience, might be one of the biggest and highest rated shows of the entire year, just because there's so much pent-up frustration from fans and from WWE performers of seeing missing that live connection, missing that energy. The audience brings just so much to the show. You don't realize it until it's not there. So I mean, that's just my thought on when the live audience gets brought back in. It could be one of the highest rated shows, especially if they know when it's coming and they have time to build it and say on July 15th, whenever the heck it is, we're going to be live in front of the WWE universe, and maybe they bring in back some big stars. Maybe they're able to make this feel like kind of a Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. I would capitalize on that, but I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself, probably a couple of months.
Understandably, but we also have to look at who are those big stars and are we actually going to get a good match? I don't care if Hulk Hogan is there to have our first live show, because honestly, when he was in the ring, he fucking sucked. Oh, sorry about the language, but yeah, he was never really good. So if you're going to have Bret Hart or something like that, still, I hate the celebrity kickoff. I hate all that stuff. It's gonna happen. That's what's gonna be produced. But in long days, I'd rather have some marquee match with Daniel Bryan and oh jeez. Oh God, who maybe Apollo Crews, and people laugh at that, but he is amazing. Let those two have a half-hour match at the end of the night. I think that would be your great reintroduction.
Yeah, the fact is, I don't care how they do it, but they need to make that first night back in front of a live audience a huge deal. And I would put on a best I could to put on a 5-star match at the end of the show. I know that you're not a big fan of big stars being there, but even if we don't like it, the fact is that the numbers would go against how we feel. Big stars always bring in big numbers, and yes, they're one-offs. They're not sustainable because they're just there for the night and to pop a rating and move the needle. But the fact is that what's ultimately going to matter are eyeballs on the product, as many eyeballs on the product, so you use those stars to bring in more people to watch the show, but you showcase the new talent in matches and programs. That is the key. So, all right, well, that's us, fantasy booking probably a couple of months in advance as to what the new live show would look like. But a couple other things, and then we'll kind of close this out. Who do you think is behind these? The truth will be heard. Kind of the hacker sitting there and looking at the Matrix, or I don't know, whatever he's doing. Who do you think that is? Do you think that maybe we'll never know? It's just kind of maybe WWE doesn't even know, which wouldn't surprise me. They often don't even know who they're going to reveal and just put a storyline out there. I mean, look what they did with the anonymous Raw general manager. That was never paid off until years later, and it ended up just being Hornswoggle, which was just a joke. So, do you think this is going to lead somewhere with somebody being revealed as that person who's exposing people? Or is it just a segment that WWE is going to use, not necessarily as a means to an end to reveal who that person is who's telling the truth, but just to get the storylines progressed to find out who's lying about what, and not necessarily about who's behind that black sweatshirt.
Now, I've thought about this, and most fingers point towards Mustafa Ali. I'm 50-50 on it. I wish there was something better. I was really hoping it was Killer Cross, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think it's just gonna eventually go by the wayside. Like, they're just gonna play with it to advance other storylines, and then just say, we didn't know what to do with other stuff, so whatever. But I think it's Mustafa Ali. How about you?
It could, yeah. He was my first guess because of the promos he cut before about him being in the streets and basically being that good guy, and he seems to fit that. And let's face it, his entrance, he's already pre-corona protected. He's already got the mask on. He's got the, so he's good. I mean, he could perform in front of a live audience today. He's good to go. Yeah, it probably is Mustafa Ali, but at the same token, I'm kind of with you on the 50-50 of WWE going, well, we're never going to reveal who it is. It's just a vehicle that we're going to use to move storylines forward. And if that's the case, whatever. I have low expectations as to them revealing who it is, or if they reveal it, it's probably going to be a letdown. I hate to be negative on it, but we've seen storylines like this in the past where they just seem to have no idea what the destination is, and they're just worried about telling a cool journey there, but no idea where they're actually going. And that seems to be one of these things. And so I like it. I'm interested when it pops up, and I'm like, ooh, what kind of sneaky stuff are we going to see? And this past week, he talked about, whoever this person is, about keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. And I think, as some of the pictures he was showing, of the tag teams, I think it's a case of him revealing Sasha and Bayley, about Sasha keeping Bayley close, since really she views her as her enemy and not her friend. Their other teams didn't make sense that he was showing. The Usos, no Uso's going to turn on the other. It'd be like Matt and Jeff Hardy fighting each other. No one wants to see that. So I think it was just really a poke at Sasha and Bayley, and ultimately I think the breaking point for Sasha and Bayley, whenever we get there, and we're going to get there, and I've kind of just thrown my hands up and go, we're getting there, it's fine if they tell the right story, is going to be one of these segments coming to light, so that Bayley will be exposed for being a backstabbing, conniving, you know what, and I think that's going to be the breaking point where Bayley is revealed to be this monster in front of Sasha, and that's the breaking point. But those are my thoughts.
Well, it could be done as Tony Storm. That would be awesome. Think about it. A gossip, the perfect person, perfect place, everything. It would just be beautiful. It doesn't matter, like, the guy side of things. It's just always what's going on with Bayley, what's going on with Sasha, and then just progress it. That would be amazing. Aside from her, I mean, obviously I thought it was Mustafa Ali, and oh God, I feel so bad for him because I feel his career is cursed, but that's another discussion for another time. But yeah, I think Tony Storm would be the perfect person, be the person behind all that, and just build up a different, just kind of interaction between Bayley and Sasha, and just make it crazy, and then she just comes in and swoops up.
I didn't even think about Tony Storm. She is. I remember seeing her at Evolution, the pay-per-view, obviously for all the women, that happened a couple of years ago, and I was blown away by how good she was in the ring. I am such a fan of Tony Storm, and I've continued to follow her since, and she is just, I love Toni Storm is one of my favorites by far, and so if it's her, awesome, great. I don't have faith that it is. I think more than likely it's one of two things: either it's going to be Mustafa Ali, which would somehow fit with his character, or it's going to be they don't reveal it because that's not the payoff, or they don't even know where they're going with it and it just stops. I mean, so it is more than likely probably one of those two. But so yeah. I don't know. Those are just it's an interesting thing. I give them this. They haven't done something like this in a while. They did the silly Roman Reigns who done it with vehicular manslaughter story over the summer that ended up being a big fart of a payoff of Eric Rowan because that went nowhere. And
that was terrible. Yeah,
it was just it's bad. It was bad. But so hopefully they have learned from that. I don't have faith, but we'll see. So. One other thing that I have, and then I'll toss it to you for anything else that I may have missed, is the whole. Well, quick thoughts. Just give me quick thoughts on the tag team title change to New Day. Do you even have any thoughts on that? I mean, New Day are champions again. Like, honestly, people think, oh, you guys just complain. Does anybody really care that New Day are tag team champions again? Anybody?
I don't really care. I care so much to change my socks and make sure that my feet look good more than I care about the New Day being the champions again. It's disgusting to me that we're just rehashing everything over and over again.
I think it speaks to the lack of depth of the tag team division, too. Because had the Usos won, I would have felt the same way. So I don't understand the value in giving it to a team that doesn't need it at all and just continuing to do this cycle. Again, I'm not blaming the New Day. I'm blaming creative for not being able to successfully build new tag teams and be able to not continue to give it to the New Day just to get their tag team win numbers up. To say they're an 8-time tag team champion, like, who cares? I mean, honestly, I was, while Miz and Morrison weren't knocking my socks off to, I guess, roll on your pun, I would have rather had it on them because I feel like they could have benefited more by having the belts than having the New Day, who have had them just kind of like on a rotating schedule of passing it to the New Day and then giving it to the Usos and then passing it to it just feels like it's been like back and forth and back and forth. So I'm not big on this because I don't hate it. I'm just kind of like, okay, they're champions again. Like, wonderful. It doesn't do anything. But I don't know. Okay. So what I really wanted to ask you with this Money in the Bank matches for the men and the women, we were told many times on SmackDown that it's going to start at the first floor of the Titan Towers in Stamford, Connecticut, and that the Money in the Bank briefcase is going to be on the roof of the building for both matches, men and women. I'm scared to ask you what you think about this. Is there any way that they could present this where you don't want to turn the TV off? Is there any way that could happen?
No. That's my first and foremost answer is no. I think that it's going to be like the WCW. What was that? Really, Road Wild or something like that. It was a terrible pay-per-view, and I think that's what it's going to be. I don't want to see anything that is so badly scripted, and I think it's going to be more the cinematic stuff that we don't want to see. That filming that, oh my God, we're going to watch Charlotte walk into a room, or we're going to watch like Andrade undress. I don't want to see that anymore. I don't want that, and that's what's killing our product. But no, my answer is no.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I guess you're at the level of like 0 on 1 to 10. I'm like a 2 on 1 to 10 to at least be curious enough to give it a chance. I know that they're going to look at this and salivate at the possibilities of what they can show off of their production skills. and look at this and go, ooh, guys, there's so much video editing we can do at this, and they're sitting there going, moo-ha-ha. Like, I know that they are dying to get their hands on the production of this match and all of that, and I get it. The thing is, though, if this is a live event, it's going to mitigate a lot of that. I think if it's live, then they won't be able to do all of these silly things because it's live. I have a feeling though that it's not going to be a live event, particularly for that match anyway. So, but the other thing is too, they're talking about this being starting on the first floor and it's on the roof. Well, there are elevators on the first floor, so are people just going to be taking the stairs and fighting each other up the stairs, 10 flights of stairs to the top of the building? Because wouldn't the smart person just let everyone fight and then just, click, ding, go up the elevator and go to the top floor and then take the stairs to the roof and win the match? I mean, elevators exist. I hope they think about that, because if I see them fighting throughout the, every floor they're going to fight on, and everyone's fighting up the stairs, and the elevators are in use, I mean, they cannot overlook that. I mean, just please.
No, I get it, because like the place I work, which you know where it is, like you have, I think 4 or 5 different elevators plus escalators and stuff like that. So, I get you. It's suspension of belief, or is it real?
Yeah, it always comes down to that. The thing is, like, I'm trying to suspend my belief, and I just have that feeling it's probably not going to be a live match. It's going to be just a pre-taped version or it's going to be a pre-taped, pre-produced, video-edited as best they can segment for both matches and integrated in with the live segments of the show. So there'll be live matches, but those 2 matches in particular will not be. And I don't know. I'm very scared about how they produce this. It could be probably a mix of the Last Man Standing match with Edge and Orton, where they just are using inanimate objects and hitting each other with it over and over and over to oblivion, and also a bit of a Taker Boneyard match, where it is a lot of hocus pocus stuff and stuff that it's very produced, and it's very obvious that it's produced. I don't think it's going to be Firefly Funhouse crazy. I mean, that's as extreme as it gets.
Yeah.
But it'll be a version of the Boneyard match, probably toned down a little bit because they're going for a briefcase for both men and women. So that's my thought. But
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I honestly, I hate to intrude, but I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it like that. I don't want to see anything that's like cinematic. I don't want to see anything that's produced. It's BS to what we grew up with. It's not wrestling. And all these kids out there that, I know wrestling, the Attitude Era was great. Watch Tully Blanchard get into a ring, shake a man's hand, then defeat him. You see a great performer. Then you see the Road Warriors go out to Coliseum and destroy the Midnight Express, but they do not win. That's wrestling. So, everybody who thinks that they have an idea and all these, symptomatic, problems with what wrestling should be, it's difficult. The problem is you have a lot of writers, you have an old man who does not know what he's doing and is out of touch. And he has a place where he wants people. That, my friends, is wrestling.
And I get what you're saying, and I understand, and yeah, I love the Attitude Era, but I know exactly what you're talking about with Blanchard. I get it. The thing is, you would have fans of today, especially the ones that have just started watching wrestling over the last, even 10 years, come in and look at those and go, how could you, they would probably say to us, that is boring. I mean, they would look at this and their brains would be craving the entertainment-y part of the match instead of actually understanding and getting into the match for what it should be, and that's two men fighting, or two women now, fighting for an opportunity to elevate themselves to a potential championship match or settling a personal rivalry. And that's all it is. It's the thrill of victory, agony of defeat. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. And when you throw in all of these entertainment-y parts of wrestling, it's not wrestling anymore. It's like you're trying to be something you're not, and that's what WWE has done on a yearly basis. And look, I'll be a WWE fan for life. People think, oh, if you hate it so much, why do you like it? Why do you watch it? Because I love it, and I know what wrestling can be. I know how good it can be when it's simple and it's not overproduced. And I know how good it can be, and that's why we love wrestling. I mean, even today's product, there are certainly moments that I absolutely love, like Edge's return. Those still give me, goosebumps. Like things happen today still, although not as much, that remind me why I love wrestling. So,
no, I get you. I hate the fact that the casual fan sees some stuff that we see today, like I said, and it just it definitely makes me look like a fool for being a fan. Do you ever have that feeling?
Yeah, when I was watching the Firefly Funhouse, I was thinking to myself, thank God I'm watching this by myself, because if anybody else was watching this with me, they would turn to me and look at me and go, what the hell is this? And they, especially if I have, certain friends come out of the woodwork around WrestleMania season, because that's when I guess it's more socially acceptable to be a wrestling fan, is around WrestleMania. And I said, I tweeted this out, I think I even texted you, this is the crap that non-wrestling fans that come around once in a while that watch it go, this is why I don't watch wrestling. This. And even as a hardened wrestling fan, I've been watching since 96, 97, I look at this and I go, I shouldn't have to think this hard about this stuff. And, people say, oh, you just don't want to think about it. I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to dissect everything to understand what's going on and be, as I phrased it, an acid trip to go on these unbelievable, non-believable cinematic approaches to wrestling that are not wrestling anymore. It's WWE trying to be something they're not, and have to try to think that hard instead of just sitting down and zoning out and taking ourselves out of our world, whether you're stressed or whatever. It is an escape from reality. And in this case, with WrestleMania this past year and for the foreseeable future until we get back into the live format, it's going to be a lot of these cinematic approaches that are just please a lot of the younger generation, but don't really make you feel like it's pro wrestling anymore, and it's gotten away from it because it's not wrestling. That's why you and I don't like it, because it's not wrestling anymore. It's not.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yes. It's so much so much agreed, because I grew up with watching like the first empty arena match I saw was Lawler, and it was insane, and it was going up into the stands, and you bought it. You don't buy today's like empty arena matches. You don't buy anything right now, especially with the fact that every wrestler comes out and just plays to a crowd that's not there. We don't want that. We're the fans. So if we're the demographic, and if everybody watches it with us, they're gonna laugh. I hate that. I hate the fact that they like something, I hate the fact that they laugh at something I like. That's what wrestling has become.
Right. I mean, again, I've just kind of come to terms with, as a wrestling fan, you're always going to have those people. I will say this, you feel like the minority more than you do the majority, unless you're at a wrestling event. Or unless it's around WrestleMania season, then you have some people go, oh yeah, I watched that last night, or, but then they're not a wrestling fan until next April comes around. I mean, we all know those people, but the majority of people that wrestling fans know are not wrestling fans themselves. And so, yeah, I mean, you just have to kind of get used to being the minority, getting used to just kind of shutting down people that call it fake. It's such a lazy, tired analysis and kick at wrestling. It's because you get people that talk about that don't understand what wrestling really is. It is what MMA is. It is what the NFL is. It is what baseball is. And what I mean by that is they all have teams they love. They all have teams they hate. What is that in wrestling? A babyface and a heel. You all have stars in those sports. What makes wrestling great? Stars. That's what draws ratings. That's what makes wrestling great, are stars that put on great matches that you can connect with. Same with any other sport that has ever existed, ever. What makes a movie or TV show great? A hero and a villain, a protagonist and an antagonist. That is the same premise as pro wrestling. And pro wrestling has just got this bad rap of being a fake sport that pretends it's real. No one actually believes wrestling is a true competitive sport. I mean, anybody that actually believes that, I'd love to talk to that person. It doesn't exist anymore. So, yeah, the business has been exposed, but at its core, it is the same as every other professional sport, any TV show or movie that has ever existed. So that's my defense against people that love to just be lazy and call wrestling fake.
Well, I would love to see anybody who calls wrestling fake just take a bump, actually do anything in a ring. And I've never done it. My brother has, and he will tell you for a fact that anytime anybody calls it trampoline or it's any kind of spring or it's going to make your back feel better, that you're effed out of your mind because you're going to wake up, you're going to hurt. I know friends of his that workers that I don't know how to piss blood, and there are not really good stories for the indie guys. So, yeah, it's fake. No, it's scripted. And that's the word I prefer to use. And I don't know if you want to use that going forward, but the fact is it's scripted, but these people get hurt. And I love the fact that I can watch them, and I love every minute of it. I don't
Unless
love...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't always love the impact or the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't always love the outcome. But at the end of the days, I still keep watching because I love wrestling. I love pro wrestling.
Once it's in your blood, it doesn't leave, and that's the thing. It's I hate to use the analogy, but it's true. A virus never truly leaves you, and that's exactly what wrestling is. And I'm okay with that. I've accepted it. I will be a fan. I don't care how bad WWE gets. I will be a glutton for punishment, and I will continue to watch. And there are things I do love about WWE right now. I don't want people to mistake this show as a ranting about things because we all hate wrestling. No, I love wrestling. I just know when it can be better and how to make it better from a fan's perspective because I am one.
Exactly. I just wish people would listen to our voices a little bit more, but go ahead, sir.
No, that's okay. But you're right about the fake thing. I've never been a professional wrestler, but I went to like this 1-day camp that a wrestling organization had. It was just north of Boston, and they had it every year, and I went twice, and I took a couple bumps, and I can validate that. I'm telling you, people think that these bumps, you take for granted seeing people just take clotheslines and suplexes. Even just simple stuff like that hurts like hell, and hitting the ropes hurts. People don't understand that. They think it's like just like this nice springy, soft rope. No, it leaves marks on your lats, on your body. Like everything you do in that ring hurts. Everything. People don't get it. They sit in their comfy couches and they don't understand. So yeah, you think it's fake? Really? Well, like you said, get in a ring, take a single bump. They'll never go back to it again. Most people are allergic to that mat. And so, yeah, you're right about that. And I don't know. Again, but I don't like the F word either. But if you're Ronda Rousey, everything, you do fake fights for fun with your friends. That's what you do. I'm sure you saw that whole thing. I don't even want to get on that, but
yeah.
So anyway, do you have any final thoughts on anything that we've touched on, or that maybe we didn't?
Just some shout outs, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sure. My friend Sean Boyce, he was there for me for a long time, and I lost a lot of family members, and he was there for me, so I love that guy. John Pelko, obviously a great follower, listener, and everything else, and I love Ash and you and everybody who listens to the cast, Anthony, everybody who's part of this, Zach, Mary, it's hard for me to draw your names fully, but I just want you to know I love you all because you're all part of this. Also, I want to throw a shout out to Rod Bland. He's BB King's godson, and he's the son of a blues legend. So that's about it.
All right, very good. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, this is one big happy family of wrestling fans. But despite of how much we may critique the product, this is we really all love wrestling. That's why we're here. That's why we spend hours talking about wrestling. It's not to just complain because complaining's easy and draws ratings. No, we truly have a passion for this. We really do. So, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. And did you want to give anybody or let the listeners know about any social media that you have?
It's always at 144Captain on Twitter. Aside from that, if you can find me on anything else, good luck.
Good, yeah, no, which is basically you don't exist anywhere else. So, very good. I know. Okay, Michael. Well, thank you so much. We'll do this again soon, and try to look for some bright spots in WWE, but don't watch Money in the Bank.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.